So welcome. Today's project is going to be replacing this Cloud Key Gen 2 Plus and this gateway with a brand new USG Pro. The main complaint has been that the Cloud Key, while it's accessible locally, no longer works remotely. So anyone who is trying to access it from outside for administration can't get to it. You can see we have 110 devices, 110 clients and 12 devices. Later we're going to add another couple of devices and expand the area that this network is going to cover. We have a 24-port switch that is serving our business offices and the computer lab, as well as a couple of network gateways. And we will also figure out why we have a random network connection that I didn't know about before. All right, so I'm going to clean up here. We get our internet through a company called Starry, which is delivered to this switch here. It used to be delivered to this funny looking router, but is no longer. And I'm also discovering that we may be paying for a DSL line and 2 Comcast connections that we don't need. So we'll get that dealt with. We're in a tiny little closet. This is the electrical closet where the switches and the dimmers for the lobby lighting are located. All right. So while I'm setting up the rack ears on this Dream Machine Pro, I wanted to make a mention of the really nice set of hardware that was included. So we have a selection of screws. We have a full set of screws for the rack ears. We've got mounting screws for the rack. We have cage nuts, and if we're going to set it on the table, we also have rubber feet. It's a very thoughtful process there. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that was helpful. So temporarily, I'm going to put the Dream Machine at the end of this little rack, but I will get rid of the gateway later and slide it all back together. Nothing like having a little bit of a hazard poking out for anybody that wants to get loose in this closet. So to get the Dream Machine Pro going, I have temporarily connected the internet to the existing network's LAN, and then I have a separate LAN connection to the laptop that I'm going to use to work on setting up the network. Okay, so I'm going to download 2 backup files. I'm going to download the UniFi OS backup file, and then once this is completed, I'll actually go into the network application and download the backup file here. Now, as you can see, the system works perfectly fine if you're directly connected to the network. I am actually on the Wi-Fi for the building at the moment and have no issues. It works fine. The problem becomes if you're trying to access this remotely. Turns into an absolute nightmare. So looks like we have moved here. We want to download our network configuration, and going to find our most recent backup. Where do I download that? It used to be right here. I'm going to download the migration file here. There we go. So that is our backup. That is the migration file we're going to use. It is named backup. We also have the UniFi system config and the core backup. So I've now connected the Dream Machine Pro to my laptop by a wired connection, found the IP address, and I'm going to walk through the configuration steps here. So we can do our daily updates. 3 a.m. is perfectly fine. Turn off the auto optimize. Don't mind sending some metrics back. And so our story connection is 200 meg down, 200 meg up, which has worked out really well so far. We're getting a little bit lower speeds because the rest of the network is actually busy at the moment, and so there is traffic on the network. That's cute. You can see the pictures, shows where we've got something plugged in. And I'm going to change 200, 200. Enable access, correct information there. And so we will allow the setup to continue. So when I went into settings, there's a nice little video to give you an overview of what exists and how to make things work. So that's really cute. So I jumped into the firmware settings and I'm just updating everything before I upload the old file from the old controller. So I'm powering off the old controller, and after uploading the settings to the new controller is also going through the reboot process. But we'll give it a few minutes. That machine is shutting down with traffic at 2 megabits and a little under 100 clients. Okay, so now I'm powering off the Dream Machine Pro. I've already powered off the old cloud key and disconnected it. I'm going to swap in the live internet connection over to here, and I'm going to route the existing network over into the system here. My one concern is that there are a number of devices on the network that are hard-coded to use 192.168.1.1, which is the gateway's IP address. The cloud key was 1.2, and I'm curious as to whether the Dream Machine is going to take the 1.1 address or the 1.2 address, and whether I'm going to need to fix that. But otherwise, when I imported the settings, it really did sort of work very quickly. It immediately loaded the existing settings, and everything looks to be correct. Worst case, I just reconnect everything back up and fire back up the old system, but we will see. Okay, so I took the incoming internet connection and connected it to the WAN port on the Dream Machine. Connected the old switch over to here. I will mess with the fiber at a later point. I'm actually curious if I can use the secondary WAN port as an uplink as opposed to just having one uplink, because I believe this supports SFP+, and I can also put SFP+ on the aggregation switch down below, so I just need to change out the SFPs here in order to get a much better connection, but I still need to connect to this switch. This switch needs to remain. So we shall see. Waiting on this device to come up, and we will see what happens. It's starting now. So I'm gonna touch it. Nope, nothing there. So we'll wait until it finishes starting, and then we'll see where things stand. Okay, so two problems. One, I get a no IP address warning. Apparently we may be locked to a specific MAC address. I'm gonna have to give a quick call over to our internet provider about that. And then our gateway IP has not changed to the address that it should be. So I need to follow up on that. All right, so a quick call to our internet provider, and they deprovisioned the old router, put in the new MAC address. It looks like I'm routing traffic and I can see the rest of the network. Only problem is that the UDM Pro is stuck on an IP address outside of my network as opposed to being the correct gateway. So I need to sort that out. Okay, so two concerning items. I'm getting adoption failed for a number of my devices, but it looks like they're slowly trickling in, so maybe this is a thing that will fix itself. I also needed to adjust the IP address of the UniFi device, and the place that I found to do that is by going to my networks, and if you edit the host address here, this will be the address that gets used. So resave that, and it should change the IP of the Dream Machine again. It did change it earlier. Yeah, so see, it's just broken again. And so now when I change it to 1.1, now I'm going to get back to the Dream Machine and be able to administer it again. All right, so I'm going to get logged in here, and I'll give you an update in a bit. Okay, so good news. Adding or changing the IP address to be the same as my old gateway, as opposed to the old cloud key, has seemingly solved the adoption issue. And wow, all right, it looks like we're getting close to calling it a night. I'm going to make sure that the rest of the devices on my network get adopted, and then we will begin some cleanup tomorrow. So it should be a fun day.